What did balance look like then?
Even though this organization had a great vision and a great purpose, inside the organization, things were not what we were portraying on the outside. The co-founder would change the business strategy on a daily basis. Would even go to retreats where, as part of the leadership team, we would co-create the next few years or the plan for the end of the year, and then he would go off announce something completely different. It was complete chaos. People were taking drugs to survive. People felt voiceless, that if they were to challenge that, they would lose their job.
How did you get started in becoming an entrepreneur?
Was a lawyer, and I am still a lawyer. When I was working in a particular law firm, I discovered that I did not have the freedom to fully be myself. I didn't own my own time, and the clients I was working with were not actually interested in the advice we were creating. So typically in your law firm, you're working 12, 16-hour days, you're doing lots of thorough research, you're having your client meetings, and they don't care. I was like, I'm wasting my life. That's when I discovered for myself that if I can do this work for a client, what would it be like to do that for myself? And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a decision maker.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Midweek Motivation Podcast, a special behind-the-scenes trial series that I'm doing where I'm interviewing interesting and inspiring people to learn more about how they've overcome barriers, limiting beliefs, and challenges through health and fitness. This is season 0, you can say, more of a sneak peek into what's to come as I experiment, learn, and have deep discussions with artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, and creative people in hopes of engaging interest for an official podcast in the future. I'm your host, Cameron Neal, and today we are kicking things off with a powerful conversation with the most bravest and inspiring person I've ever met. His name is Rugare Gomo. He is a high-performance life and business coach and a brand new author with his upcoming book, Dreams. He's also a previous personal training client and now a lifelong friend. Welcome, Rugare.
Hi, Karen. I'm so touched by that introduction, really. And I'm so grateful to be your friend. You have completely changed my life. And so it is a privilege to be on your debutante podcast today.
Wow, I'm very grateful that you're my first guest and I guess this little debut to the podcast. So really excited to really dive into some conversations today, more specifically about your journey and how that sort of flows through health and fitness and I guess how it relates to your life now.
Absolutely.
So getting started, what is life and business coaching?
That's a very good question. So my mission is to inspire and empower all people to dream, forge their own path, and be a leader in their own life. And why do I say that? You know, when we're born into a context. We're born into a context with all these ideas of who we need to be. You know, boys don't cry, girls cross their legs, become an engineer, become a doctor. But what most people, whether it's parents, teachers, society, aren't asking is, who do you really want to be? So life coaching is helping people reclaim their power, reclaim their freedom, and to start forging their own path and be the leader of their life and to build that strength within them. Because boy, oh boy, when you choose to be yourself, people are out there to pull you down.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really curious to know that because there's such a long process in getting to help a client go from where they are when you meet them and to coach them on this path, it's gonna take a long time. So I'm very curious on knowing like what is a typical client like? What are they like when they had that first conversation with you? Do they already have ideas of what they could be or what their problems are? Or are they really stuck and you're just trying to help them unblock?
It's fascinating. Most people, 99%, know what they're dealing with. So a lot of the things people will say is, I want more freedom in my life. I want to be able to change careers. I want to spend more time with my children. Like people really know what the problems are. They will even know what is in their way, by the way. But the things they think they are, what they think they know is in the way are typically external things. So they'll say, I can't change my career because of money, or I can't start my business because of time. All those things are external scenarios, but it's never the case. Typically, what will be in the way is something that we believe about ourselves. So we might say things like, I don't make enough money. That's what's in the way. Somebody might be communicating, I'm not worthy to start my business. I need that security of full-time job. So my job is to really hear what somebody is saying about their life scenario and translate it into what is really going on in their life. It's like speaking different languages.
Yeah, yeah, I bet like that's. I can imagine you've had some really powerful, but also quite intense experiences with working with these clients. Like I'm sure that you've had um, really taken in a lot of what their emotions. I'm curious, like what has been like something to help you with dealing with like emotions, especially when you've had a difficult coaching call.
So you're right. I work with people from all walks of life, like all walks of life. They could be accountants, lawyers, engineers, mom, dads, retirees. I've worked with people where their daughter is dying, as an example. I've worked with people who've been sexually abused. So there are lots of emotions involved. And you would never know. Like these are people just walking in everyday life, being strong, being brave. You ask them how they are, they'll tell you that they are fine, but inside they're dying. And in my experience, that's most of the world,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that's why I feel so privileged and grateful to do the work that I do. And it is a lot of energy that I use in all sorts, whether it's mental energy, it's spiritual energy, it's physical energy. So there are many things that I do. One of the things that I have done, of course, has been working with you, which has been amazing. Would catch up weekly, 6 a.m. You'd be at my home, and sometimes even earlier at request because of my schedules.
Yeah.
But that 1 hour training of focusing on my body, working on what I thought was only working on my body, strengthened my mind and strengthened my spirit. But it wasn't just because I was doing personal training. It was because of the space you are as well. So you were holding space for me to gain power. And not all personal trainers can do that, by the way, because I have interviewed many personal trainers before choosing to work with you. And I didn't feel that safety. I didn't feel that energy because I am sensitive to people's energy that way. So of course, my fitness regime has been critical in my mental health and well-being, and being literally strong with showing up for my clients. The other thing is that I'm highly routined by choice. I love my routine. It's a discipline. So I spend time journaling nearly every day. I do my journaling, and that's like speaking with myself and speaking to my higher power. And I share everything. I'm scared. I'm tired. I can't believe that's happened. Everything. And what that does for me is that I am not keeping things inside my head. I'm bringing them out here. So it empties me out of all my concerns, all of my own feelings, all my own achievements, which creates a space for me to show up for others. So I love that. And I have holidays. When I'm on holiday, I'm on holiday. I
Yeah.
don't work. I don't work Mondays. Mondays is my day off. I spend time with my husband every day. We have our coffee, chai, latte catch up. So connection. So I'm always taking care of every aspect of my well-being. In life, what can happen is, we can spend lots of time, let's say, working because that's where we get achievement, validation, and success. Or we may focus on fitness because that's where we get, validation and success. I can't live like that. I can't focus on one area. I have to focus on all areas for it to be balanced and for me to show up. After all, that's what I'm also teaching my clients. That's what they're coming to me
Yeah.
for, to have a full life.
I really admired that, like, especially when I met you and you said, "Oh, I take Mondays off," and then you don't start work until 10 o'clock. I was like, "Oh, this is really like good." You set yourself time to focus on yourself, your ambitions, your goals, but also what sets you up for the day, and then you're ready to take on your work for the day, your coaching calls, more writing. I think like what you've done is you've had this opportunity to with your business to give yourself flexibility to work on your terms. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's really powerful that, a lot of us can like hopefully strive to get to, especially as a business owner.
Absolutely. And
Um,
on my routine may not be what works for somebody else. It's my routine. So with everybody I work with, we discover what is going to empower them. For some people, it's their high peaks are in the afternoon. I'm already shutting down in the afternoon. My high peaks are in the morning. So not one size fits all. And so what is important is to take the principles out of this conversation. There are many principles, but the application externally can be quite varied.
yeah, absolutely. How did you get started in becoming an entrepreneur?
Gosh, um, I was a lawyer and I am still a lawyer. So I practiced law for several years. And when I was working in a particular law firm, I discovered that I did not have the freedom to fully be myself. That was one. Um, I didn't own my own time. That was two. And the clients I was working with were not actually interested in the advice we were creating. So typically in your law firm, you're working 12, 16-hour days. You're doing lots of thorough research. And then you're having your client meetings and they don't care. I was like, I'm wasting my life. I am actually wasting my life. And that's when I discovered for myself that if I can do this work for a client, what would it be like to do that for myself? And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a decision maker. So it wasn't necessarily I want to start a business. I decided that I want to be a decision maker. And instead of being a decision maker, one of the opportunities of that was, being a decision maker in my own business and playing that as a game of life. What would it be like to win and fail on my own terms, on my own decisions? That was something that interested me. That's how I ended up transiting into being a businessman. It didn't happen overnight. After I left the law, I spent 12 months looking for my next opportunity. 12 months. It was very
Wow.
hard because many people, when I decided to be a decision maker, um, people were like saying you need to go and do an MBA. I looked to join organizations outside the law, but I didn't tick their boxes. But I knew for myself that I could turn mud into gold. After all, I came to Australia by myself at 16 years old with $300, raised money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to law school. So the feedback I was getting did not correlate to who I knew myself to be and what I accomplished. Another way of saying it is that I was being limited by other people's opinions of how they saw me. But after that 12 months, I found an opportunity. I joined a startup, an educational startup, and that was amazing because I was employee number 4. And in 2 years, we grew it into a multinational organization. And I was their director of corporate affairs and their general counsel, creating deals in Australia, setting up their offices in America, Canada, Mauritius, the UK. And so I started learning what it is like to be a business person. But I was working for a family, a very wealthy family that could throw money at any problem that came along. So when I decided to become my own decision maker, my own business, I didn't have the skills. So I had to start from zero, but I didn't know that then.
That's incredible. I actually had no idea that you joined a startup, and being
Yes.
the fourth employee. Um, tell me what that was like. Like what we hear today is from startups. It's very intense. You might have to work long hours, minimal pay, and like sometimes you have bad interactions with, say, with the co-founders or other staff, but there's also high reward in some cases. So I'd love to hear, what was that process like when you joined the startup and up until when you left?
Like when you say that, it's as if you were there because I experienced all of those things. um, I I took a 20% salary cut when I joined the startup. I was okay with that. I could still maintain and my expenses and live life. Um, but the vision of the startup is what I was called to. And I think many people who work in a startup, they're not doing it necessarily to begin with for the money. They're doing it because they have a strong purpose and vision. And the purpose for this particular one was education. We were interviewing global leaders all around the world, presidents, prime ministers, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, Nobel Prize winners, all around the world. And I was part of that and creating
Wow.
leadership and management courses to be distributed in TAFEs universities all around the world. So, like, it doesn't get more exciting like than that.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so when I joined the startup, I said to the co-founder that if I was to join him, I wanted to learn how to be an entrepreneur. So imagine this. An African migrant. I came from Zimbabwe to Australia. And, we still on the African continent deal with lots of the consequences of colonization. And so for me, having this education and a skill set and this opportunity was my opportunity to discover creating generational wealth. That's also one of the opportunities I saw in all of this for myself. So I was like, I don't have the skills. I've never had the opportunities. Um, White corporate Australia was saying that I didn't tick their boxes, but yet I'd accomplished so much in my life already as a
Mm.
27-year-old. So, joining a startup was a no-brainer because then I was meeting my tribe, people with no limits, people who were like, it doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, where you've come from, what your sexuality is. If you're here to work and bring this vision to life, let's go. So we
Yes,
did.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What was the how did you balance it all back then? Like you were working in law, working heaps of hours, 12, 16 hours a day, and then going to a startup world. Like how did you manage what did balance look like then? Do you remember like emotions in particular that or feelings going through some of the more harder challenges throughout this
Yeah.
times?
And so when I left the law and joined the startup, there were many things I dealt with. When you're in your 20s, you don't think you can't do anything. So I didn't see anything as a barrier. I was full of energy, full of life. You just do everything in essence. And so um there wasn't balance. And in short, you worked hard and you played hard in essence. But of course, long term, that doesn't work. And particularly when the culture of a company is not great. So over time, even though this organization had a great vision and a great purpose, inside the organization, things were not um, what we were portraying on the outside. So, for example, the co-founder would change the business strategy on a daily basis. Can you imagine changing a business plan on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's
That's
insane.
crazy, and unilaterally so. Would even go to retreats where as part of the leadership team, we would co-create, the next few years or the plan for the year, the actions, and then he would go off and then announce something completely different. It was complete chaos to the point where I know people were taking drugs to survive. People felt voiceless. people felt that if they were to challenge that, they would lose their job. So, it was great that I was part of something greater than myself, but great visions are not always sustainable if we don't take care of the people in a healthy, sustainable, joyous way. And so in my business, I've learned to um, bring in people in a healthy, joyous, sustainable way, period.
Yeah.
Because the opposite of that is torture. It's torture for people. It's torture. I might as well be in Guantanamo Bay, being in a torture camp, because these are people's lives. They have families, they have children, so people's mental health and well-being, their security matters. So as a decision maker in my business, I know that everything I am doing has a real impact on people's lives, what people are being paid, what I'm saying or not saying, the promises I make, clear communication, the strategy of things, changing strategy and the impacts of that. So I learned so much in that 2 years, the good, bad, and ugly, and so grateful for that. It was the making of me at another level. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's like that was really I loved hearing all of that, and
Mm,
I think it's such an exciting experience for young people who don't really know what to do, um, to be able to join. I think joining a startup is a great recommendation. People thinking about joining business, or they want to utilize a skill that they've sort of learned, not necessarily from a skill like say coding or digital marketing, making products. Like this is something that is like really useful in real world, but then also creating connection and
yes,
having those connections are super valuable, especially in business, and where if you need support, like having that connection base is like really important to explore opportunities. Um,
absolutely.
when we started working together, you came to me with a goal, and you told me you're writing your book, and like which was I guess a surprising sort of goal to sort of experience, because you didn't necessarily come here just you know get to the six pack abs and look good for summer. Um, you told me you're writing your book, and fitness suddenly became this new aspect that you wanted to really work on. I would love for the audience to hear like this pivotal moments on your journey. Like what did health look like before hiring like a personal trainer and interviewing other trainers, and what made you decide to hire a personal trainer rather than say just joining up to a gym or looking at YouTube videos, for instance?
Mm. So many things. So my fitness story starts with there's no fitness.
Never too late.
And I was one of those people, yeah, I'd been to a gym a few times. I'd done some running as well, just for myself, but I was never consistent with that. And I'd be one of those people who would be like, yeah, I'm going to go to a gym. Oh, yeah, I need to exercise. Oh, it's good for my health. And I've spent over 2 decades saying that. So the reality is, if somebody is saying that for 2 decades, it's not something that's serious whatsoever. It's just like daydreaming. I was actually wasting people's time even sharing what I wanted to do with my fitness, because I had no intention of fulfilling on that. Because what I came to realize was that I really didn't care about fitness connected to my health. So we normally associate fitness to health. We should exercise to be healthy. If I was to be honest with myself, I'm 39 now, so we met when I was 37, I believe. I couldn't care less. In my head, I think I'm okay. I've got time I've got time to avoid being fit. That's how it really was for me. But that's not how I said it to myself. But how I'd say it to myself would be like, I need to get fit at some stage. But in reality, I'm like, nah, I've got time to be fit. But it all hit a head when I started writing my book, because what I'm passionate about is sharing my mission and my passion. And my mission is to inspire and empower all people to dream, forge their own path, and be the leaders in their life. And so when I started dreaming about being on a global tour, going from country to country, city to city. I was like, I won't be able to do this. I'm not fit. So my dream of sharing the message of inspiring people showed me that there was a huge gap, a huge gap. And
Mm.
if I was to fulfill that goal, that dream, I had to do something about it now. And we started our journey 3 years ago. So I've been preparing this 3 years in advance, because I was like, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm starting from below zero.
Yeah.
So once I was very clear that I needed to bridge this gap in my health and fitness, I started interviewing personal trainers. I wasn't going to go to the gym. Too noisy for me, and I'm also autistic. So there were a few things that's going on. I'm autistic. So loud sound, the booming of the music wasn't going to work for me. Um, Self-motivation isn't going to cut it for me. I've tried that as well. I was also looking for somebody who was up to stuff as well. And so when I interviewed you, you're up to stuff. You were so varied in your life and the conversations that we were having. And to note, we're not necessarily having deep and meaningful conversations while training, but over time, we started having breakfast together as well. And in between the rest periods, every conversation built me up in essence. So having a personal trainer was about discipline, accountability, and feeling great. And that's how you made me feel. And the difference that made, as you know, was beyond, it's unimaginable. Because one of the first things I learned about myself was you showed me, I had this conversation in my head of I'm weak, I can't. As you know, I think for perhaps the first 6 months, you'd say, do this. I'm like, I can't. And you ignored, or maybe I said it to you, or maybe it was in my head. I can't remember which
No,
now
I
because it was
definitely
very
heard a lot of
loud.
that.
But you showed me that I'm strong. You know, you showed me I could, and you taught me about my body and being connected to my body in a way, that I'd never thought was possible. So today, that whole conversation of I'm weak has disappeared. I'm strong. I know I'm strong today. So that was life changing. To be on this journey. But for me, I think what was critical is it wasn't just any personal trainer. It was a personal trainer who, like, look at you. You're doing this podcast. You write a newsletter. You're training for the weightlifting Olympics. All of that was inspiring for me. You started your own business. So I felt like I was growing with you and also being a witness to somebody who's before me, not just in fitness, but in other things in life. And I could grow with that. I could be inspired by that, you know. So that was really important for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there's such a sort of huge moment like throughout the journey, especially between the 6 and 12 month mark, where we started to really make progress. More so in your sort of what you were saying to yourself. Um, Obviously, like I think the physical part was more of a secondary thing, at least in my eyes. I mean, I think for you, it might have been primary initially, but I knew we had a lot more sort of deeper work to sort of go through. Um, but I had to sort of condition that for your mind and for your body. So I was I was wondering, actually, I never asked you this, but have you ever like wanted to give up PT like during the process? Was there like a point you're like, oh, this is just too much. I don't think this is for me. Um, yeah.
Interesting.
What was that
Not with
like?
you. So if you do remember, I was also doing Pilates with another person at the same time. So I was doing one day with you and one day Pilates. But I let go of the Pilates because I wasn't getting the benefit that I was getting with you. I wasn't getting that like I know you say you're a fitness trainer, but in the end, as you just said, you trained my mind. my mind changed, my spirit changed, my physicalness changed. So my entire life changed. And we can't underestimate the impact that's had on my book. The times when I'm like, I can't do this. There was, remember that time when I actually rewrote my entire book in the process?
Yeah. I was completely shocked when I heard that.
I was like, I'm not happy with my book. I'm going to rewrite the entire book. But you are also sharing parts of your journey of taking on things, So I was witnessing you, rising up. You left Function for Life, starting your own business. And there was that pain point as well that you're dealing with. You'd gone and done your Tony Robbins as well. You are up to stuff and playing big games. I was like, me, if Cameron is doing that, so am I.
I
And
mean, I
yeah,
try, but I'm constantly inspired by you, so I have to try and lift my game.
it was awesome. But the other thing is that you've had zero ego, but you're the real deal. You know when you're with the real deal, you've never like boasted about yourself, but you just shared authentically, and the results show it for themselves. But also when I was whinging and whining, you never bought into all my whinging and whining. You just always knew how to stretch me. And I think that's a rare gift. It wasn't too hard. It wasn't, you're never soft on me. Every time I'd be like, that's hard. I came out for 2.5 years. I came out after every session saying that's hard and then floating, loving how I felt about myself. So that is a gift that you had that is like so hard to find out in the world.
Well, thank you for the kind words and sharing some of those memories that we had. What does health and fitness look like for you now, and how does it impact your life now that we're no longer training together?
Yeah, so it was kind of devastating because I was like, what am I going to do? Cameron is now in the UK. And so for me, online, I guess online doesn't work for me because I like the accountability. Um, and so I started going to is it a PT Vision, which is near my home. And that was good because you had trained me in my body. Now I'm going into a place where they've got equipment. So at least I had the basics and I still have a personal trainer training me. So it was kind of like a progression as well. And also, as you know, when I train, I make lots of loud noises, which my husband is appalled by.
Yep.
So now I am able to be more regulated when I'm in the gym as well, but with the personal trainer, and I'm able to start going to group classes as well. I am working together build my confidence to be in a public space like that, to also train with people and be that vulnerable. I didn't feel comfortable with that at the beginning because, I just whinged and moaned with all the pain. So I definitely am reaping the rewards of that relationship now, doing it in a group class as well. So that's how it
Yeah.
looks like for me.
That's amazing. I'm really proud of your progress through there. I think a lot of people could benefit starting with very sort of simple movements. It could be at the gym still; it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
from home. But like we had equipment at your place, and also at the park. It was
Yes.
minimal.
It
Like we
was
had
good.
dumbbells, kettlebells, bands, but unlike all the machines and big compound lifts that you see at the gym. And that's how I started as well. I was doing a lot of what we call calisthenics, so a lot of body weight training. Then we start to include a little bit of weights, and that's how I sort of built my foundation for physical strength, and started to grow like a little bit of lean muscle. And then yeah, over time I started to really explore other options, and I had a bit more of a capacity to perform exercise movements where I didn't think I could before, or I already had built up a strength. So like I could do it. And I see a lot of people at the gym where they don't have that foundation, and this is a really big cause of how some injuries occur because they don't have a solid foundation to begin with. when they're lifting, especially when you get to these heavy compound lifts. You got to have like a solid base first before you grow.
And I think that's
Um,
very powerful what you just said, because like if I were to go to the gym, what would I do? Copy the people I've seen on YouTube lift 80 kilos? I have no idea what's safe or healthy for me, you know?
yeah.
And so that gradual progression has is definitely made the biggest difference in my life, in essence. And now I know I can do it. Like I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah. And it's hard. I really relate because we might see from the outside that okay, we don't all know how to do like a bodyweight squat or do a sit up. But yes, a lot of people still get some of the core things wrong, and we're not really sort of taught this unless you maybe got into sport from an early age. But I didn't have the money to hire a trainer from the beginning. I learned all my sort of foundation stuff from watching YouTube videos because it was free. I didn't like spending money, and that's what I did, and that's how I started to like find a passion. So it hiring a personal trainer isn't always the way if that's not what you want to be dedicating your finances to or your time. But if you do have the time, like that is a good way to learn, experiment, and just improve your technique over time. I think
Yes.
like one of the big exercises that I see like huge improvement on is your squats in particular. That took a lot of work to get that movement pattern
Yes.
because mobility wise that was really hard, and because it's a full body exercise that was something like I think you just your like it's like your nervous system almost didn't want you to do that exercise.
Yes, yes. And it's fascinating because, as you know, as I was also doing the exercise, I was doing myofascia as well.
Mm.
And for people who don't know what myofascia is, it's kind of like a massage, but it's it's your myofascia is like under your skin that keeps all our whole body together. And my myofascia therapist was like, my nervous system was out of complete whack. And the first time I met him, I had to actually stop I couldn't do any exercise, no yoga, no nothing, because I was actually straining my nervous system.
Wow.
And all of this has also to do with my mental health issues that I've had, that, the trauma from my past, not being able to come out as a gay man, that all of that trauma, that complex trauma, had a negative impact on my body. So imagine if then I'm going to go to the gym and not treating or dealing with my trauma, I'm damaging my body more. And so that's why it's so important. Like, well, for me, um, I'm grateful I had the resources to actually go through that process, and be empowered, because then it really did take care of, I was having therapy for my trauma, myofascia to release my nervous system, and then when we started working together, then the fitness and health to deal with strengthening my body. Like what, and then
Mm.
of course that also was nourishing my mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. It wasn't just one
Yep.
thing. But now, like in your newsletters, you share your videos. So when I go in and you see your videos, I'm like, I can do that. Because I remember it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that plank. Yeah, I can hold that. So I'm not so scared going online to try that. That so it's your content is so valuable as well, and it's so easy to follow. I just miss that face-to-face accountability. What I love about your business is that you've created accessibility for all people. If people want to work with you one-on-one, they can. If people want to do it in a group, they can. If people want to do it online, they can, from anywhere in the world. So and the thing is, you're the same. You're the same. And that's so powerful.
Yeah. Speaking of content, you have a book coming up. Dreams. Tell us
Yes.
about it. What was that? How that idea come to life and actually like launching it very soon?
Yes. Now, I recently got the book, Cameron. So this is you've seen it
Oh,
yet. I've got the
wow.
physical copy.
That's
Can you
amazing.
imagine? You've been part of this journey for
Yeah.
3.5 years. And look at
Yep.
this. So it's here. 187
Oh,
pages, dreams, forging my own path. It's crazy. It's crazy. Um, For me, I think the book started off by writing gratitude lists. So it was, during COVID 2020. So June 2020, I started writing gratitude lists. And I got bored. When you start something new, you get really excited. It's like, oh, I'm doing gratitude. I'm going to do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Day three, I'm boredless. I'm sorry, I might have to share.
Go ahead.
I probably have said other things on this already that I haven't even recognized. Bored out of my wits. And so then I start writing short stories about just life. And then I start writing about my life in detail as well. And I've always wanted to expand my voice. I'm a gay Black migrant to Australia. And in most places in the world, being gay, you can go to jail or even be killed. And I'm like, that's, of course, that's completely unacceptable
Mm,
anyway. But people like me live in lots of fear. And so dreams forging my own path is my opportunity to share a voice that most of the world won't hear, because for another gay person to share their memoir could literally lead to death, could literally lead to them being unemployed, could literally lead to them being on the streets being a vagrant, which is so not cool. So I am using my privilege, my freedom, all the hard work I've done, and also the hard work my community, particularly in Australia, has invested in me to hopefully inspire people all around the world that in the darkness there is light, there is hope, there are things we can do to be visible. There are things to do to free ourselves, irrespective of the horror of the countries we may be living in that oppress people like us. But it's not just a gay book, it's a life book. It's a book of the human spirit. It shares the journey of, living the law and starting my own business. That's a common story anywhere around the world. The fears, the stories of me nearly going bankrupt and being homeless and working my way out of that. Normal stories, common stories.
mhm.
So my book is really to inspire people to not give up on their dreams and to continue taking the next step and the next step and the next step, just like you and I are doing. We're just taking steps in life.
Yeah, you have so much life experience, and I feel like there's so many people that can relate to at least one thing from your life story. And I'm so excited for when it's released in the world. When's it released? What's the date?
So it's going to be released on the 3rd of September, ET time, Eastern Standard Time in America, which will be the 4th of September in Australia. Um, so that's when it's going to be released to the world globally. And people can already pre-order their books all around the world. I've done lots of work, time and investment to make sure that the book is available globally. So the book is already ready for pre-order anywhere you're at in the world.
Fantastic. And where can people find it to pre-order or purchase?
Amazon is where you can predominantly get it. And if you're in America, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, Target USA, but Amazon is going to be the primary place you can get it all around the world.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be the first person to read it as soon as I get a hold of it. Um,
Awesome.
so to wrap up this podcast, we've got a few rapid fire questions, and then I have a final question to close
Ooh,
out this sort of first podcast episode. So,
perfect.
best and worst favorite exercises.
How dare you ask me this question? Because you know that I keep forgetting the names of the exercises.
Fair enough.
Okay, one of the hard ones that it was very hard, and I also got to love was the side plank. The side plank
Ooh,
with lifting the leg up. Oh my God, that was hard, particularly when you kept on saying, lift the hip, lift that hip, and then holding it.
yeah.
Gosh, that was hard, but I loved it. Like the victory of being able to do it both sides was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. That was good. Um, Training in a gym or outdoors?
Outdoors. How could I not? I live in Sydney, where I'm close to the harbor. I can see the Sydney Harbour Bridge as well, outdoors anytime.
Yep. Tea or coffee?
Tea all the way. I don't drink coffee.
Reading or walking?
Oh, how dare you? That's not a choice.
You had to choose.
If I had to choose, well, a reading, because I can do other exercises in my life if I couldn't choose walking.
Yeah. Beach or mountains?
Beach, anytime. Love the beach. Australia has some of the finest beaches in the world. And I mean beaches.
Yep.
But yeah, it's great.
Yep. Burpees or oh, bear crawls? Forgotten the name for a sec.
Oh. Ooh. What's the second one? Burpees or?
Bear crawls.
Oh. Uh, all I'm feeling is the different kinds of pain from either.
Yeah.
Burpees because we did more burpees than bear crawls, so I'm more experienced in burpees. But both are excruciatingly firesome to the body.
Fair enough. Yeah. Final question. If you could go back to 20-year-old Rugare, what would be one thing you've learned from your health fitness journey that you would change?
Start now. Don't wait for, when I get older. Just start now. I can't, you're 24 years old and you've been in your fitness journey for many, many years. And I think that's one of the great things about when you grow up in Australia. Sport and fitness is part of life, hence probably why we're number 4 in the Olympics in the world, per capita, which is, way above what we should be. But I can't imagine what my life could be if I started when I was 20. And not just for my health, but all areas of my life. Because what I discovered is fitness is more than fitness. It's about my mental health, it's about my spirituality. So, those areas that I was struggling with as a 20-year-old, when I was insecure, when I was scared, perhaps fitness would have made a huge difference to my life then.
Fantastic. Great answer. Where can people find you?
Well, people can find me in many places. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, my website. And my preferred is LinkedIn and YouTube. So anything to do with Rugare Gomo, if you type that in, you'll find me.
Fantastic. Well, I've really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm very excited about the book. So, if go ahead, everyone, pre-order the book, purchase it when it becomes available, and yeah, there we go. Dreams. There we are.
Dreams.
For those
Forging
with
my own
just the
path.
audio,
My own promo. It's
awesome. Well, thanks
awesome.
so much, and I don't know when the next episode will be, but I'll let you know.
Loved this, loved having the conversation, and I can't wait to do this again with you again.
Amazing. Thank you.